Let me think. Oh, I was writing on them first. And the paper was, I had primed paper. I didn't know people primed paper, so that was new. But when I was writing them, I get kind of tired of just like the blank white canvas. And so I had yellow and I wanted to see what it would look like. And I felt like it reminded me of a highlighter, so I just decided to do it on all of them. So it would be like if I was reading a large text, what would I highlight? So I typically don't use a highlighter because I wound up highlighting everything. So I started using like pens to like circle like keywords or phrases that I would use, or like places that I could like depart from. So why yellow? It's because technically I'm highlighting it because it's of importance.
So would you say the same but different stop, the muted one is like not that important?
It's still highlighter, it's just a different, that's just cardboard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Out of the 3 topics, which did you try to relate this with?
What'd you say?
Out of the 3 topics, which did you try to relate it to?
It's all of them. It's language, it's capital, quite literally, capital letters, and duration.
I like that there's like so many different forms of text, like it's like I can almost see like your journal entries and I can like see where you are mentally. And I like the one that looks like it's a text message. And like kind of like when a nigga tap dances, like almost like a meme, like yeah.
What if a nigga knocked me out and I wake up and they got them phones out, I'm gonna shoot the people with the phones?
Yeah, it's a quote from a TikTok, and this guy, it's a conversation that people constantly have. When you rewatch videos of like police enacting just like violence, oftentimes there are like 1 or 2 police officers, and there's like, it can be up to like 50 people with phones out. And I'm always trying to figure out like, when will be the day the 50 people with phones out just tackle the 2 police officers? So it's always just thinking about, but I feel like the only type of like hierarchy there is just the fact that they have a gun, but there's 50 people. So it's almost just trying to figure out when would be the time where like 3 people take one for the team, like the likelihood or like considering the probability that someone actually does get shot and trying to tackle 2 police officers versus the many people with phones. So someone said, you know, like if somebody knocks me out and I wake up and you guys just have phones out, like I'm shooting the people with the phones because why didn't you guys help me?
Some of the voices are different. I mean, you have different voices going.
Yes, I had a studio visit with Eric Wesley the other day, and so he was asking me like, essentially like, would I decide to like just use one voice? But I always have to remind myself, and I feel like that's sometimes where I have a little bit of tension. I don't only have just one voice even in my head. Sometimes I'm coming from a standpoint of like responding to someone. Sometimes I just want to say something flatly, like I've thought about something, which hence the longer form written pieces on the canvases. Sometimes I feel like a text message is something that I need to like regurgitate again. So there's gonna be many points of views because I have multiple points of views and like multiple experiences throughout the day and just time itself.
So for you, this is all your voice, or coming through your voice?
Yes, except for the ones that literally have quotes on them.
But even that is sort of coming through your
Point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you could be doing not. What is this is not a gaping anymore?
Because I always think about like, so I started thinking about like graphically, like the more I kept writing, so it's supposed to be like a rainbow, but it's literally not a rainbow. So I always think about when people say, oh, like, you know, this is black art. What exactly is black art? What does that look like? What are like the prerequisites to making black art outside of just being a person that occupies spaces of blackness? So I started thinking about like, what if I was just like, oh, this is gay art? Like, well, what qualifies it as gay art outside of someone identifying with that type of like sexuality? So it's just kind of like playing with ideas that I feel like are a bit absurd.
Like, this is not, so you could replace it with, this is not a black painting,
Yeah.
except that you identify as black and you don't identify as gay. Is that true? I don't mean to ask a personal question.
It's almost like I have to be a participant to like say these things sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's my question.
Yeah.
This does bring up an important question, because in the art world, like in the art school, we can say that the work has to speak for itself in this and that way. And in the art world, I can tell you that personal narrative actually does play a big part in how things are read, and then it does, we're a society and it gets passed on.
Right.
So if you're like this new cool non-binary artist, everybody's gonna be looking at the cool non-binary artist through looking at it as non-binary. You know what I mean? So it's,
which is interesting because it's not like, like when the artist is white, it's like, oh, we have this hot new white artist. Like,
yeah, nobody says
no
white.
one says that. Like, what do you like? So it's just, just playing with those ideas of like, how necessary is this?
Right? No? Fair question. I mean, like nobody says, oh, it's a show of men.
Yeah, like, oh my
It's
gosh.
an all-women show.
Yes.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yes, and I feel like in order to make it quote unquote normalized, I don't even like to use that term, but normalized, like how often do we have to celebrate outside of just saying like, this is the artwork that we have decided to curate together?
I really like the white canvas near the bottom that you're kind of analyzing like language itself. I want to also point out that I like how you're I feel like there's a lot of like inspiration from like the digital age. Like there's like send Bitcoin and like that's God and all the algorithm. I'm like wondering what inspired you exactly to like put that in there?
Put what and where?
I guess I don't know, I'm having a hard time articulating. What inspired you to make references to like the algorithm in Bitcoin?
Because it's relevant to like my experience like right now. Like just like what's in my point of view. Like I invest in Bitcoin. I've been introduced to Bitcoin, saying that's God, not the algorithm. Because sometimes, people are like, oh, I'm in alignment. It's just like, is this aligned with you? Or is like your phone collecting cookies so it knows exactly which shoes to promote to you when you're scrolling? So, just like thinking about those things. So it's not like these things I'm like scouring for them. They're literally put in front of me. And as I consider them and think about them, I then project them tangibly into the real world.
What about the don't ask for handouts, do it from white people? What are you seeing?
When I say steal from white people, it's like kind of literally, but also thinking about just like just taking up more space.
Is there any specific reason for you writing E without
Without the line?
yeah.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, even when I'm just writing notes. When I had a studio visit, someone thought it was like an ode to Basquiat or like Samo, the group, but it's not. I think that a lot of people, if they write in all capital letters, it's just kind of like wishy-washy. And I just happen to take notes in capital letters. Yeah.
The open-minded and racist, who is that to? Is that yourself, others?
It's to others, but also like sometimes I'll be having a conversation with someone and something like that will literally pop into my head. I can't even remember who I was talking to, but I just thought like, oh, open-minded and racist. Because sometimes I think about how like someone will identify themselves as like an ally, quote unquote, or like a liberal, quote unquote, but then they'll turn around and do something that really puts me in harm's way or is violent towards me. So I'm thinking like, oh, okay. And I just immediately thought that, put it in my notes. A lot of these things like are from my notes app in my phone based off like conversations or ideas that I've had while talking to other people or observing things around me.
I was just wondering why this one is, I don't know if it's an asked already, but